Away from that, the International Monetary Fund, in its latest staff country report for Nigeria, said the federal government may need to raise a supplementary budget to accommodate the proposed minimum wage increase for workers. This is because the negotiated amount may surpass the budgeted amount in the original 2024 budget. The authorities noted that the supplementary budget may be needed to accommodate the outcome of the ongoing wage structure negotiations, which may exceed what had been included in the 2024 budget. It also noted that the government might need to raise the domestic and external borrowing ceilings to prevent fresh borrowings from the apex banks' ways and means. To further discuss this, I'm joined by Dr. Femi Egbesola, Chairman, Small Business Owners of Nigeria. Thank you very much for joining us. Quickly, how do you assess the potential impact of a supplementary budget on Nigeria's fiscal health, considering the current economic challenges and debt sustainability concerns?
No doubt it's going to impact negatively on our economy. It's going to cause more damage to the economy. The government of the day has borrowed so much, and this borrowing does not even start with this government. Previous governments have borrowed and are unable to pay because our revenue is not matching up with our borrowings. And this has great implications for the economy. It's one of the reasons why we have the highest inflation rate at the moment. And it is also one of the reasons why the naira is also falling. So when we have more supplementary budget approved, it also means that we are going to weaken our economy the more. We are going to have more inflation. The disposable income of an average Nigerian will be reduced. And of course, this will also lead to some security issues because naturally citizens will want to make ends meet. And when they cannot naturally make this possible, they look at other vices of making ends meet. So by and large, for me, supplementary budgets should not be the in thing now. What should be the in thing for us or for the government is to begin to look inward on how to raise more revenue and close the necessary gaps that we have at the moment.
What factors would you consider in determining the feasibility of raising the domestic and external borrowing ceilings to accommodate increased spending on wages, particularly in the context of Nigeria's debt to GDP ratio?
Well, at the moment, what we need to do as a government is to begin to see how we can look inward to get more revenue to support the budget. At the moment, we discovered that quite a number of not all exports are not doing well. Government needs to begin to focus on how to raise revenue from non-oil export. And that means that that sector needs to be sensitized so that it can perform and bring in more revenue to government. We also need to begin to look at how to improve our sales of crude oil. Our crude oil theft is alarming. And if this is caught, we'll be able to sell more crude oil and make more money. You will understand that the budget was at 800 naira to $1, but at today, as we speak, a dollar is going to, in exchange for about 1,400, meaning that we already have an excess in exchange rate according as per the budgeting of the year, meaning that ordinarily we should have more fund with government. Yes, we understand that some expenditure to are done in dollars, but in the average, government ought to have more funds to do critical infrastructural work in the economy, and at the same time be able to live up to the expectation. Paying salaries, paying emoluments should not be supported by borrowing because it will not be sustainable. We want the government to begin to look at how we can begin to cut down costs. Cost of governance is very, very high in this part of the world. We need to cut down costs. We also need to begin to look at how to stop corruption. So corruption too is one way of making our revenue develop wings and fly away. If this is done, and government begins to also look at how to make good use of other natural resources that we have in the country, and I'm so sure that we are going to have more revenue to work with, and there will be no need for supplementary budgets because we have had one too many.
Considering the potential implications for monetary policy and inflation targeting, what are the key challenges that the CBN might face in accommodating increased government borrowing through ways and means financing?
One is going to mop up a fund such that fund will not be available as it should be to the real sector. The businessmen, the SMEs, the large corporations, the large manufacturing companies will not be able to have enough funds to borrow from the banks because this is already going to government. Beyond that, too, is the fact that, like I mentioned the other time, it will eventually increase inflation because we are going to have much more money in the circulation. And when we have more money in circulation, ordinarily it will drive inflation. We already have very high inflation, the highest in the history of the country. We did not do anything to push it higher than what it is. It's also going to weaken the naira the more because when we have more...
Okay, I think...
our exchange rates.
Okay, go ahead, please.
Okay, which will definitely increase our exchange rate, which is not something that we need at the country for at the moment. Eventually, too, it will lead to some form of driving away investors from the country. When our economy is not right, it will be difficult for investors to see Nigeria as a destination point to bring in their money to, because it will be impossible for them to plan, because inflation will not make them be able to project for the long term on whatever businesses or investments they want to do. And that's not the way we need to go as a country for now.
Doctor, thank you very much for speaking with us.
Thank you, too. Thank you for having me.